enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. My name is Michael Evans, and you are listening to America's Voice Now. We're in our final week of broadcasting on 107.1. For those of you who are new to the show or first-time listeners, the station is changing hands, and Wednesday will be our last live broadcast here at 107.1. We will continue to broadcast. We will continue to post our videos up on YouTube. We'll be available on the Liberty News Network, where we will be able to offer our program through our friends over at Liberty News Radio and Liberty Roundtable. If you are interested in capturing the show via phone, you can do that. The program will play at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Liberty News Radio. That you can dial into a listener line at 702-432-6623 or 213-992-4323. Those are dial-only or listen-only dial-in lines where you can capture the show. Now, the 6 a.m. show will be the day before show, and the 6 p.m. will be a fresh show. We're also working with a couple of other stations to carry America's Voice Now. We'll be available on a Roku channel, and we will also be broadcasting our program live and putting it up on YouTube. I'm currently working and spent all day working with an engineer here from the station to put a board together that would enable us to be able to take phone calls so we can continue with our radio show in a live format, and we'll still, of course, stream it live on the web at americasvoicenow.org. I encourage you, if you are a computer user, to listen to the show that way, because it will enable us to continue in a live broadcasting format. And as we make changes with other radio programs, I'll be more than happy to keep you up to speed on where that's headed. Right now we are talking with two other stations in reference to keeping the show on the broadcast area or on the broadcast lines in our area. And I encourage you to contact radio stations that you would like to hear America's Voice Now on, and ask them, why will they not carry this particular program? You know, if you want to hear America's Voice on your radio station, call them and say to them, here's a web link to their website, americasvoicenow.org. Here's a link to their Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And here is a link to their YouTube channel at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. Listen to a program or two, and let's get this guy on the air in our community. And I encourage you to do that, because that's how stations pick up by user demand. And if you are a business, encourage them by saying, not only would I like this program in our area on our radio station, but I would support it with advertising, because that's what they're interested in. They're interested in what's the revenue stream. So give them an opportunity to know that they've got an immediate source of revenue from you. That's how it works, folks. It's open, blatant, naked capitalism. If there's money in it, radio stations will carry the program. It's that simple. So let's practice what we preach. Let's practice what we believe in, which is capitalism. If you are a local, or if you are outside of our broadcast area and you listen to this show on a routine basis, and I know that there are literally thousands of you that do, then make sure that you're communicating with your local stations and say, not only do I want this guy on there, but I'm willing to back it up with an ad for my business. That's good business. That's good practice. That is good patriotism. Okay. I would like to mention a couple of things that are going on this morning. As you're aware, there is going to be a congressional hearing this morning, or this afternoon, I should say, here at the Civic Center in West Plains. From 1 o'clock, I believe it runs from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock, but don't quote me on that. But it is definitely 1 o'clock. And it is on a first-come, first-served seating basis. Now, that particular facility will hold about 450 people. We are expecting probably more than that, but I want to make sure that you are participating in it and that you're planning on coming here. I don't care if you have to call in sick or go home for lunch and not go back to work. Find a reason to make sure that you attend this event today. For one thing, there's two reasons for it. For one, we want to make sure that we're putting on a showing for our representatives in Congress to let them know, and the Department of the Interior and whoever else they're bringing here to attend this hearing, that we are not willing to lie down and allow government overreach, especially in the federal arena, reach into our homes, our pockets, our land, and take control of our homeland. This is our property. It's our land. It's our state. You can get the hell out. That's the mantra, right? The second issue is that we want to make sure that we are showing solidarity for our area in terms of our fight against this Blueway thing. That's what this hearing is about. It's all about the Blueways. And thirdly, we want to show our representatives here, especially the new representative, Jason Smith from the 8th District here, that we are in support of a constitutional representative who will stand up and fight for us here in our own district. Nothing short of that will be acceptable. So let's make sure that we are showing up, that we are well-mannered, well-spoken, well-dressed, that we are in a position where we are speaking intelligently and articulately about the issues around us. We want to make sure that we put on a good face forward. There's no second chance to make a first impression, and today is the day for you to accomplish that. I do know for a fact that we have the ability to move the venue to a larger room in the event that we overflow the particular facility that they've got set up. So our goal is to make sure that we have to force that issue, and please make sure that you are prepared to attend. If you'd like to bring a sign to state your position or state your slogan or motto, please feel free to do that. We do want to be orderly, of course, and we do want to make sure that this does not descend into a protest, if you will, but we want to make sure that we're very clear about where we stand on these issues. And so they have not invited either me or any of the other folks that were actually boots on during the Blueways fight to speak. And Jerry King will be speaking from Voice of the Ozarks. And I have to let me recant what I just said. Jerry King and the Voice of the Ozarks group, and there's two of them that are going to speak from that group, were instrumental and were participants in that fight. So let me make that clear. However, there were a lot of folks that should have been involved in that really were not, and I'm disappointed in our congressional representative in the sense that he has refused to allow any of our local representatives or any of the folks that were part of the captain's teams that fought that to speak. They're well qualified. They're articulate. You all have heard Doreen speak many times. She's on our show here on a Friday on a routine basis, and she is, a very, very good speaker, very articulate, very knowledgeable. In fact, I think she's probably forgotten more about the issues of law surrounding Blueways and federal overreach and international and global law related to wildlands and those types of projects than these congressional representatives know. So the simple truth is she should have been chosen to speak. Parker should have been chosen to speak. Jeannie Burlsworth should have been chosen to speak. That is the kind of thing that shows me that these folks may well be coming here to make political hay for themselves. I don't know. I can't speak for them. I don't know what their motives are. They won't speak to me. They won't allow me to post on their Facebook page. So I don't know. I come down on the side of right, irrespective of who's responsible. Now, Jason Smith was instrumental in helping us fight the Blueway. I commend him for that. I commend him for the fact that he has made the recent vote to stop the NSA spying. But, and all credit is due where it's due, But my job as a journalist, my job as a reporter, my job as a host, my job as a leader, if you will, and I don't like to think of myself that way, but everybody tells me that that's how they think of me, so I guess I may as well just adopt it. My job is to hold their feet to the fire when they do the wrong thing, as well as praise them and pat them on the back when they do the right thing. And so when I see a representative who wants, my praise but doesn't want my criticism, I got a problem with that. And since I'm not allowed to post on his Facebook page, I'm really not sure where all that goes. I got to say, our jobs as citizens, and those of you who are involved in writing or speaking or in your own radio programs, our job is to educate and inform those around us, wherever we have a circle of influence. And we have to do that fairly, and we have to do that righteously. We have to do that with all of the right motives and intents. And so when I, throw a politician under the bus for doing the wrong thing, to me, that's the right thing for me to do. I'm not here to be a yes man. I'm not here to be a party ideologue, and that's part of the problem. I throw the Republicans and the Democrats under the bus. When they do the wrong thing, I point it out. And I guess they don't like that. So, but the truth is that you're entitled to know. And my job is to make sure that you know, so that you're not operating in a fog of misinformation or what the press allows you to hear. I listened to Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace the other day, and he had Jack Lew on from the Treasury Department, and he asked him quite a few questions. But I'm sitting there thinking to myself, boy, there were a raft of questions I would have asked him that were far more pointed and sharp than the ones he asked. And it's interesting when you hear someone interview a politician, what's telling about their bias is the questions they don't ask just as much as the questions they do, right? So when you hear somebody interview a politician and they avoid hard questions, you got to wonder, are they really trying to accomplish something with this interview and expose news or expose, an agenda or an ideology for what it is? Or are they just here to either help someone forward their agenda or perhaps even worse, forward their own agenda because they can say, well, I interviewed all of these heads of state and government and I'm such a professional and I'm a journalist of renown. It's not really about being a journalist of renown. If that's all you're in this for, to be a journalist of renown, you can do that by interviewing Kim Kardashian, right? So what we really want to do is make sure that when we are putting forth an expose on what's happening around us and talking about the true information that's happening that the Ministry of Propaganda in our nation is not letting you hear. See, again, I go back to my earlier point. What they're not telling you is just as important as what they are telling you. In fact, in many cases, it can be even more important. The news is full of fluff and puff and a lot of nonsense that really doesn't have any bearing on your life. It's, the human interest stories and the soft peddling and all of that kind of nonsense. Our job is not to sit there and give you, you'll never hear me talk. You didn't hear me talk about the Trayvon Martin Zimmerman case. You know why? Because it was all about misdirection. And it was all about trying to build divide between Americans of racial issues, of class issues, of monetary issues. I'm not going to further that agenda. I didn't even talk about it. I don't talk about a lot of the things that people want to hear that's hot in the news right then. In fact, you see, the reason is this. Most of that stuff that's out there is meant to be exactly what it is, a distraction. And I'm not going to feed you distraction. My job is to keep you focused and keep you pointed towards the real news that they're trying to hide with the distraction. How do I know that that's occurring? Well, it's real easy. When the White House issues on a Friday afternoon after everybody's left news that is real news and there's nobody there to cover it, that tells you everything you need to know. And administrations for decades and decades and decades are guilty of that. They all do it. It's not just this one. So, when just before 9/11, they announced that $2.3 trillion couldn't be found. 2 days later, the 9/11 happened, and that news got washed away. When we talk about the fact that, Anthony Weiner is running for the mayor of New York, first of all, I have a few listeners in New York, but I think most of my audience doesn't really care about Anthony Weiner. Number two, it's salacious type news, and that really is not news. That's distraction. That's misdirection. That's misinformation. I'd rather talk about the fact that the press is now going to be interleaving propaganda into their stories. Why hasn't the press talked about that? I haven't heard on one major news network the discussion that they are now allowed to use propaganda against Americans. Not one. That's interesting, isn't it? Why is it they're not talking about the things that really, truly matter? Because they don't want you to know. Why? I don't know what their ideology is. I don't know what their motives are. I can't say whether they've been compromised over money or pressure or coercion or news or information about them that they don't want out. I don't know whether they've been offered a seat at the table. I don't know whether they're ideologically bound and tied to something. And guess what? It doesn't really matter. What does matter is they're not giving you news. They're giving you salacious fluff to keep you occupied, to keep you arguing amongst yourselves. And we cannot possibly fight back against tyranny when we are divided ourselves, divided over race, divided over class, when we are divided over issues that really are not truthfully paramount to the welfare of our nation. They're talking about Detroit and bankruptcy. Hey, listen, we could talk about that all day long. And Detroit hasn't had a conservative leadership role in, 50, 60 years. No wonder it's bankrupt. These people on the city council make more money than the president, for crying out loud. They get these enormous packages. They donate all this money, and they're talking about building a stadium at the cost of hundreds of millions of dollars with taxpayer money, but they can't turn the lights on. They have no garbage collection. The police don't even show up for a 911 call. You explain and give me the rationale and the justification for that. How do you justify it? But instead they're going to drop $200 million on a stadium for a hockey team. Are you flipping kidding me? You mean to tell me that you can't get the cops to show up for a 911 call, but you're going to build a stadium? Why isn't the press talking about that? Why instead are they showing video after video after video of Anthony Weiner? Please. They're not talking to you about the true nature of Obamacare. They're not talking to you about the true nature of the NSA and the data scandals that are going on. They're not warning you that the Obamacare data hub is going to make the NSA spying scandal look like they were listening to you with a cup held up to the wall. Nobody's talking about the USDA's 22-page survey that they send out to every farmer in the United States of America. And they back it up with coercion and threats of criminal and civil prosecution and fines if you don't fill it out. And it is so invasive. The questions on it are stunning and staggering. But nobody wants to talk about that. If the press was really interested in feeding you news, that's what they'd be telling you about. Because there's a push on to destroy farming on a small family farm and the small family business type farms in this country. They want the agri-giants and the agri-tyrants to own it. Why? Well, for one thing, those people pay big money into their lobbying kitties. For the second issue, they feel like they can control those because there's less cats to herd. And third, they can collude with them in a back room somewhere. But you can't collude and you can't herd, 150,000 small farmers with political ideology and agendas. They don't care about any of that. All they care about is, how can I feed my family? How can I do the best job for my community? How can I produce the best crop? That's what they're interested in. How can I produce a good crop that's got quality food, that's not full of genetically modified organisms, and not loaded up with pesticides that are going to kill the people who are eating it? That's what farmers are interested in. They're not interested in how can a politician further his political agenda, and they frankly don't have the money to donate to his campaign anyway. That's what it's all about, people. That's why they want the farmers out of business. If you can control the food supply, you control the people. It's that simple. That's an even bigger element, if you will, than money. Control the money, and what did Rothschild say? If I control the money supply, I care not a whit who makes the laws. And he was right. But if you control the food, you care not a whit who makes the laws either. Because frankly, once people are hungry, they'll do anything to eat. What we have is a government out of control. What we have is a Congress that has abdicated all of its responsibilities back to the American population and the electorate who put them into office. What we have is a press system, the Fourth Estate, that is at this point acting more as a propaganda arm of government than a true information source to the people. Now, but look, the press has always done that. Even back in the days of the Revolution, there were newspapers that were for the war and newspapers that were against it. There were newspapers that were loyalist to England. There were newspapers that were revolutionary in their scope, bias, and stories. You expect that to a certain extent. But when every news organization that is disseminating public information is colluding with government, we've lost sight of their job. There was a press article out there yesterday that the ABC, NBC, and CBS have only done collectively one story in the last 3 weeks on any of the Obama scandals. And that one story was an IRS story. Between three networks, they managed one story on the IRS in the last couple of weeks. People, that's why the president is going out there saying these are phony scandals. They're not phony. They're real. But he's got a sycophantic press that will back his play and say, yep, the president says they're phony, they must be. And that's the end of it. That's all their news there is for you to know. By the way, here's Kim Kardashian in a brand new dress, and look at how good she looks after having a baby. And see, now they've drawn your attention away. That's what this is about, people. That's why America's Voice has become popular, because we're not gilding the lily, we're not playing the game. Find us at americasvoicenow.org. Find us at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And find this and every other program at YouTube/America's Voice Now.
From West Plains, Missouri, it's KBMV Birch Tree, the Ozarks' best news talk.